Fear has no form. Fear has no name. But now, fear has an address. Castlevania, Symphony of the Night for your PlayStation. From Konami.
When I started working on this channel, most of my videos were absolutely riddled by Metroidvanias, so I figured in order to add more variety to what I was covering, I'd have to take a break from them for a while. That break is now over.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
As usual, my goal here is to recommend some games that I like in the hopes that you might discover something here that you might have otherwise missed. I know that the Metroidvania genre is something that people can be extra pedantic and genre-dicky about. I'd say that upgrades helping you move forward and interconnected paths in an explorable world are major things that make a game a Metroidvania. But that said, I don't even think those are 100% accurate requirements for what makes a Metroidvania. I think like most labels, it's a you kind of know it when you see it sort of thing. Alright, now let's start off with the first one. Teslagrad is a good little Metroidvania that's gameplay is designed around using positive and negative electrical and magnetic charges to solve puzzles and traverse the world. It doesn't rely on any text or voiceovers to tell its story, instead it all paints a picture of a world suffering under a cruel dictatorship and you play as a boy out to take down the evil leader, and that's all told visually. The game's approach is refreshingly hands-off. There's hardly any hand-holding when it comes to tutorials, and you're just kinda tossed into well-designed areas with puzzles that explain themselves. What makes Teslagrad shine is its simplicity. It doesn't overcomplicate things or distract with unnecessary features. The polarization mechanics are the star of the show, and they're more than enough to keep you invested. As you make your way through the game, you'll gain new abilities that allow you to interact with the currents in different ways. This may be a pretty common focus for the genre, but it still remains true here. The boss fights here are absolutely fantastic. That said, there's no traditional health system for your character. You get hit once and you're dead. It can be brutal, especially during the boss fights, but trust me, it's worth pushing through. I recommend Teslagrad. Its simple yet satisfying mechanics, great boss fights, and wonderful soundtrack make for a pretty good game. Bloody Hell fucking rocks, and it's completely free. Now I understand you might be a little skeptical when you hear about a free game, but trust me, this is one of those extremely rare exceptions. It's a full-fledged, super polished game, untainted by any hidden fees, microtransactions, or any other bullshit. It's a free single-player Metroidvania dual joystick shooter. In Bloody Hell, you play as a chicken who is sent by God on a divine quest to vanquish Satan in the depths of hell. At first glance, you might mistake it for a roguelike, but it's not. It's a handcrafted adventure that may share gameplay similarities with The Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon, but it's a dense and purposefully designed top-down Metroidvania. Alongside the expected interconnected pathways and item gating typical in the genre, there's some really great additional stuff like the modification system that involves slotting a variety of gameplay modifiers into an expandable grid. This has a good level of variability to fine-tune the combat to your favorite build. It also has some really great bosses, tons of secret areas, and useful hidden collectibles. I highly recommend Bloody Hell. It's totally free, and if you end up liking the game enough, you can also pick up the soundtrack through Steam to support the developers. Popful Mail is a Sega CD game that has been saddled with the Metroidvania label in retrospect. But honestly, I'd say it's one of those games that you might have to squint to make fit into that box. And if I were to directly compare it to something, I'd say it's closest to something like Monster World 4. That said, Popful Mail is often brought up as the game that almost was localized as a Sonic game by Sega, and it was going to be called Sister Sonic. And beyond that little factoid, this game is actually something really special. This game was localized by Working Designs, who's either beloved or reviled depending on who you ask. They're pretty well known for adding a lot of humor to their translations, but luckily I think that sort of approach is really appropriate for Popful Mail. It's a playful adventure where you play as Mail, a determined bounty hunter on the hunt for a big payday, with her sights set on capturing the elusive wizard Muttonhead. It feels like you're playing a 90s anime, and because of the Sega CD and its animated cutscenes, you basically are.
I know he's hiding in there, I can feel it. And when I find him, he's all mine. Then I can collect that big fat reward!
On her journey, she teams up with a wizard named Tat and a flying monster named Gaw. You can switch the playable character between these three, and each has their own strengths and weaknesses. Mail is quick but lacks strength, Tat wields magic for ranged attacks, and Gaw is slow but has high attack damage. The game is fully voice acted, and I think that really adds a lot of character and novelty to a game like this.
Doesn't matter. You're free, so fork over the 500 gold.
Geez, no time for pleasantries, huh? Follow me to the village and I'll pay you there.
I thought you had the cash on you. This better not be a trick.
The game can be pretty frustrating at times though, partly due to the game being made more difficult with its Western release, which was a common thing they did back then to encourage people to just buy a game instead of renting it over and over and over to get through an overly difficult game. But if you can push through it or find the Unworked Designs patch online, Popful Mail has so much charm to it with its great sprite art, voice acting, and overall presentation. I highly recommend Popful Mail, but I hope you don't pay the second-hand crazy prices that it's going for online, and I hope you just find it in a shady back alley like I did. Zapling Bygone is a 2D Metroidvania made by a solo developer that focuses on the fluidity and responsiveness of your character's movements. You play as a Zapling, a glob of goo that is part of a collective consciousness known as Zap, that's infected by a parasite. Your goal is to find a way to get rid of the infection. As the Zapling, you possess a unique ability, the power to wear skulls, granting you access to the thoughts and experiences of their previous owner. Admittedly, I found most of the plot pretty confusing and didn't understand much of it. However, I still like discovering the comic panels that are scattered throughout the world that gave me some glimpses into the game's lore, even if it didn't make much sense to me. In addition to the standard Metroidvania elements, Zapling Bygone places a strong emphasis on collecting skulls and mutations to customize your abilities to your liking. Skulls can be found all around the world, but the more critical ones are acquired by defeating bosses. These are the skulls that unlock abilities such as dashing, a grapple, and wall crawling. Thankfully for the skulls that have essential movement abilities, the game automatically equips the right one, so you really don't have to worry about switching them out all the time. Zapling Bygone isn't all great though. The in-game map can be pretty frustratingly unhelpful, leaving you in the dark during the exploration when you would need it most, only for it to update after you do the significant stuff you would do in that area. Also, during my playthrough I encountered a bug that temporarily derailed my progress. After completing a step in the critical path, the game didn't advance as expected, and when I tried to move forward, I didn't know what to do. I was confused for quite a while, but just repeating the previous step eventually fixed the issue and got everything back on track. Despite its flaws, I would still recommend giving Zapling Bygone a try. Between Zapling Bygone, this, and the last game I'm going to cover in this video, half of these games are some skittery-ass Metroidvanias, and that wasn't planned or anything. In Webbed, you play as a spider whose boyfriend gets kidnapped by a bird, and your mission is to rescue him with the help of a bunch of other bugs. The game's focus on spider-centric mechanics like web slinging and spinning is really well done. The overall vibe is just really wholesome, with a central theme emphasizing the importance of working together towards a common goal. However, it's worth noting that some of the tasks you need to complete can be a tad tedious, occasionally feeling like a bit of a chore to do because of the physics-based elements of the game. The game's sprite work looks great and is nice and fluid thanks to the procedural animation. I recommend giving it a try. Carrion is a game where you basically fill the role of a monster in a sci-fi movie. You play as a grotesque mass of flesh and writhing tentacles, with the game subtly teasing an intriguing backstory that I found pretty interesting. Much of the gameplay is chaotically barging into spaces and mercilessly thrashing the humans inside. But some of the humans are armed, and you need to be careful and stalk them and plan your assaults for the right time. Later into the game, you'll gain the ability to seize control of humans, effectively turning them into tools to help you clear dangerous situations. I should note that there's no map or waypoints, which can be occasionally frustrating, but most of the time it just forces you to rely on your carnivorous drive to propel you moving forward, making every discovery and encounter feel organic and unguided. The vibes here are unrelenting chaos for the whole 5-hour runtime. I highly recommend Carrion to anyone looking for a unique Metroidvania that has darkly satisfying gameplay and a subtly presented storyline. Those were just a few good Metroidvanias. This is one of my favorite genres, so I plan on making another video like this in the future covering more. If you have any recommendations for other Metroidvania games, let me know about them in the comments. Also, if you liked this video, I have a bunch of others I think you might like. And if you enjoyed discovering games that you might have otherwise missed, join the 480 others and subscribe. Alright, thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching.